What is up, everybody? It's CommonX, and welcome back to another Guilds of Ravnica draft. In today's draft, we open up with not the craziest pack ever. We have a pretty great efficient Dimir removal spell with Artful Takedown, and a great uncommon for Boros decks primarily, but it can also fit well into Selesnya builds. I think we're going to roll with the Sunhome Stalwart. It's only one color, so it doesn't commit us as much as Artful Takedown would. The only decks that we're going to have that'll run an Artful Takedown are obviously going to be Dimir decks, preferably main deck Dimir stuff, not even just splashing in Izzet, whereas the Sunhome Stalwart, we could use that in Selesnya or Boros and have a great time with it. There are several cards that work great with this that'll go great into either of those guilds, like Healer's Hawk, and I can't find any more words to use for this card except for great, apparently. So now we have Affectionate Indrik for Selesnya, or Inescapable Blaze for Boros. These are both pretty great uncommons. Affectionate Indrik is really good at helping you stabilize and get a lot of card advantage. When you're playing against an aggressive opponent with a lot of small creatures, this coming out, clearing out one of their creatures, and providing you with a 4/4 blocker is pretty nice, but Inescapable Blaze is really good at closing out the game when you are a very aggressive deck like Boros. Alternatively, we could just not even commit to a second color and roll with a Luminous Bonds, which is just efficient removal. We know we can play it with Sunhome Stalwart, and that would be a good pick as well. And while Deadly Visit is a very, very good card, fantastic removal, I'm not really considering it here when we start off with a white card, because you do really want to keep in mind the guilds that are available with the cards that you pick in this format. We can't make a white-black deck. Orzhov is not a guild available to us. We're likely to be Selesnya or Boros. I'm actually going to run with Luminous Bonds here, just to stick to pure white so we can move into either of those guilds as the packs progress. There is an argument for still taking Deadly Visit there, because it's not like we can't afford to just drop our first pick. That is always something you can do in draft, and you have to be mindful of that. If white ends up being just completely unrepresented, we could absolutely try to hop into Dimir or something early enough in the draft. Not something we really want to do in pack 2 or anything, but it's important to keep that in mind. Here I kind of like Siege Worm. Maybe I like this card too much, but I really, really like having two of these as the top end in any of my Selesnya decks, and the white cards in this pack are pretty mediocre stuff. I suppose Hunted Witness does work pretty well with Stalwart, giving us the 1-power creatures that we want to be able to mentor with a 2-power mentor creature like Sunhome Stalwart. But the 10th District Guard is incredibly interchangeable. That could be any 2-drop. Same with the Dissident. If I'm taking a 2-drop, I'll take the white one since I already have 2 white cards. So we're just rolling with Siege Worm there. Now we have Temple Garden. It's a rare, but it's pretty much just on par with a Guild Gate. There are cards that care about the number of gates you have, or that can search up a gate from your deck, so the Guild Gates get a little bit better with those cards, whereas Temple Garden is obviously better at face value by being able to come to play untapped if you pay 2 life. So if we take this, we're basically just taking a Guild Gate in terms of the power level of the cards. However, the only other stuff in our guild, if we do go Selesnya, is Hitchclar Recluse and Devkar and Dissident. Those are both fine. I do think Dissident is one of the better 2-drops for green. There is a Barging Sergeant if we want to take a Boros card here, though, and I did get a lot of value out of that with my Boros decks in the past. I'm actually okay just taking the mana fixing here, because it will also leave us more open to being able to splash into a 3-color deck here, maybe Selesnya and Golgari, or Selesnya and Boros. Now, Ledev Champion, a pretty nice uncommon in our colors. I think it's powerful enough that we don't really need to hop out of color for a Command the Storm, which is just good removal. And that's the only thing that we'd really be considering hopping out of color for. Again, Devious Cover-Up is pretty good, but it's blue. There's no Simic or Azorius in the set, so no white-blue, no green-blue. Devious Cover-Up is definitely just not going to happen. Other than that, there's a decent creature, Ledev Guardian, or some filler stuff like the Hitchclar Recluse and Wario copy. Definitely going to be the Ledev Champion here. 1,000-Year Storm. Every time I see this card, I get a little sad on the inside, because it would be really cool if there was some way to make this work in draft, but it's really hard and it's just not going to happen. Definitely just a fun casual card for Historic Brawl and the like. I guess it'll be Parhelion Patrol out of this pack. Collar of the Culprit is sometimes playable, but usually you can get enough removal that'll kill anything that this card looks pretty mediocre. Like, we already have a Luminous Bonds, we're just looking for more cards like that. We have Prey Upon, Sworn Companions, and Boros Guildgate. And I suppose on that mindset with the Boros Guildgate, we have Command the Storm to splash in. Less likely to want to splash in a Garrison Sergeant. If this were a Selesnya Guildgate, maybe Garrison Sergeant would be a little bit higher of a pick, but it is not. We currently have no Guildgates if we take the Garrison Sergeant. I'm thinking probably Prey Upon here. In Selesnya, the cards I really look for, that I prioritize a lot, are beefy Convoke creatures, especially stuff like the Rosemane Centaur. That's a 5-mana 4/4 Vigilance, and that's a pretty nice stat line for cards like Prey Upon that fight things. So I'll pick up the Prey Upon there. Could take a second Prey Upon, could take a Demotion. I think I just want another Parhelion Patrol. These are some of the weaker removal spells in the set. Prey Upon sometimes puts you in an instance where you have to spend 2 of your cards to kill one of theirs by having your creature fight a creature that'll kill it. That's never a good sign. And Demotion doesn't stop creatures from attacking you, so it's only good when you're on the offensive. In Boros, Demotion's almost always playable because you know you'll always be aggressive, but in Selesnya, oftentimes you'll just be stabilizing against maybe an aggressive Boros deck. So Demotion isn't always what you want there. And here I'll take Iron Shell Beetle. Intrusive Pack Beast is in our colors, but it's much more for the top end of a Boros deck's curve, being able to tap down 2 of their blockers and send the rest of your party in. In Selesnya, it makes a lot less sense, I would say. Not that Iron Shell Beetle is particularly fantastic, it's really just a 2-mana 2/2. But I think it's a little better than Pack Beast for our deck right now. We want cheaper stuff to fill in the curve and be able to convoke out our larger cards. Not a huge fan of the Vine. I guess I'll go with the Loxodon Restorer here. And now we can go ahead and take that Hunted Witness. We want to get some 1-power, 1-cost creatures to go with our Sunhome Stalwart. Make the best use of it that we can. And we could use a random pump spell like Take Heart so that the Stalwart can even mentor onto like a 3-power creature in 1 turn. That could be nice. But there's also Hitchclaw Recluse. Not bad. Really good at blocking against like Boros decks. I think I'll just roll with Take Heart though. Tend to see Hitchclaw Recluses very late, as you can see here. But you see Take Heart's pretty late as well. We're not missing too much on either of those picks. Alright, let's see what we open up in pack 2. We do open Ritual of Soot, which potentially we could play. Selesnya is allied to Golgari via green, so there's a little bit of overlap there, but this would be a really weird splash in a Selesnya deck. Not only does it require double black, which is kind of difficult, it's going to destroy all of the small creatures, which includes all creature tokens and a lot of the stuff we're going to have, so not a huge fan of Ritual Soot. Seems really good for a Dimir deck, not for our build at all. That being said, I guess we have Blade Instructor to mentor onto the Stalwart, so we have 2 3-power mentor creatures if that ever happens, which is nice. Blade Instructor can also mentor onto Recluses, Beetles, anything with 2 or less power. Seems pretty fine. I do like the card a lot. We already have 1 pump spell to kind of help it out, help it survive a block 1 time. There's Arboretum Elemental, but that's one of my least favorites of the large Selesnya creatures to convoke out. I actually like Siege Worm a lot better. It's quite a bit cheaper than the Arboretum Elemental, and there are a lot of decks in this format with tons of chump blockers. So I feel like the Arboretum Elemental, while it does have hexproof, which is nice at dodging targeted removal, the fact that it doesn't have trample or any way to get that damage in makes it so it just kind of sits there for a while. And there are a lot of Death Touchers in the format as well because of Golgari. There's like a 1-mana 1/1 Death Toucher, a 3-mana 2/2 Death Toucher. So if you're playing against any deck with black, be it Golgari or Dimir, they could just have a Death Toucher that just completely nullifies your gigantic Arboretum Elemental, where even if they have a Death Toucher, at least you're getting in a little bit with Siege Worm. So I like Temple Garden here, but I don't really need to take that mana fixing super highly. I think it's like Ladev Champion or Siege Worm. The second Ladev Champion seems pretty cool. If we can consistently get those out, we can really build around their ability to tap untapped creatures and get big. Plus, the mana sink in the late game makes this really good to curve into on turn 3, or really good to just top deck in the late game if we have a bunch of mana to throw into those abilities. So pretty nice pickup here. I do want to pick up some more of these Siege Worms, but we're seeing a lot of them here. I think we've just seen 3 Siege Worms in a row in these packs, if I'm not mistaken. We've seen at least 2 for sure. So Siege Worm, I'm loving it, but we could take Sumala Woodshaper for some card draw, Grappling Sundew to really just sit here and block Boros decks. It seems okay. We are missing out quite a bit on the 2-drops right now, and we want to have a good curve for cards like Ladev Champion. That being said, I feel like most 2-drops are interchangeable, including Grappling Sundew. Like, sure, it can block well, but it's never going to trade with anything. It's kind of equivalent to just having like a 2-2 that actually trades on blocks. I'm going to go with the Wood Shaper. Get a little bit of card advantage in this deck. This pick will be a little weird. We might take something to splash in, like maybe splash in a Rhizome Lurcher. This card can get pretty big when you top deck it late game. That, or we're just taking a Sworn Companions to get a couple 1/1s. Seems okay with the champion. We definitely want to go wide for that. We are Selesnya. We are one of the decks that can make the most use out of the creature tokens. We got quite a bit of Mentor to turn those 1/1 lifelinkers into 2/2 lifelinkers. I suppose I can roll with a Sworn Companions here. I'm not in love with this pick, though. Conclave Guildmage is a pick I'm a huge fan of. We are very much looking for more 2-mana creatures, and this one provides us with another great mana sink in the late game. I think we're definitely going to try to convert our deck into something that's just trying to survive to hit the late game, and once we do, we now have 3 different mana sinks that can take over the game over time, just by spitting out creatures every single turn. And we also are planning on having just big beefy creatures like all the Siege Worms we're seeing, if some of those wheel. Selesnya Guildgate, Healer's Hawk to work with Sunhome Stalwart seems okay. Generous Stray to draw a card and convoke some stuff. I definitely like Healer's Hawk more than Hunted Witness, so I think it's just between Healer's Hawk, Generous Stray, and the Selesnya Guildgate here. I'm going to roll with the Healer's Hawk. Let's get some more action for our Sunhome Stalwart. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot to do with this card right now. We'll help him out. Help our friend out. Skyline Scout to fill out these 2-drops or Selesnya Guildgate. Again, I do really want to make sure that I've got a good curve of creatures going for the Ladev Champions to be a powerhouse in both the early game and the late game. So we'll scoop up another 2-mana creature here. Hopefully we can pick up some of these Guildgates or that Temple Garden off of the wheel. Vernati Shieldmate's pretty perfect, because this can attack and get tapped for Ladev Champion at the same time, thanks to Vigilance, which is really nice. It can also attack and then convoke something out in main phase too, so just a really nice combo in Selesnya decks to have a Vigilant attacker. We haven't seen a single Rosemane Centaur, which has me a little sad. Don't really think we're going to need a Circuitous Route. I think the only things we'll have in this deck that'll cost more than 4 mana are going to have Convoke anyway. So I don't feel like that's really necessary. So I guess we could take another Hunted Witness here. At the same time, Hunted Witness isn't that huge, so maybe we would just take the route anyway. Not so sure on this pick, but I'm rolling with the Hunted Witness, and as I was hoping for, it looks like we are going to wheel some of these Siege Worms. Even just one I'm fine with. We only really need 2 at the top end in our deck to be happy. Suppose I'll take a Golgari Locket, see if I open some random Golgari rare. And Rhizome Lurcher, as I said before, can be a powerhouse in the late game, could be something to splash in. Not super looking to splash right now, but we'll see. Looks like all the Guildgates and the Temple Garden are gone, so somebody is either drafting Selesnya and taking the mana fixing more highly than us, or somebody could be trying to do some 5-color nonsense. It is something that happens a lot. So we have Vigor Spore Worm. I like this a lot in Golgari. I'm less excited about it in Selesnya simply because I really like having the top end be just really big things that can also be convoked out early. And so if we see any more Siege Worms, I'm pretty happy to pick those up. So we'll probably have plenty to do in the late game. We also have a lot to do in the late game just off of our mana sinks with the Dev Champion and Conclave Guild Mage. So I'm kind of thinking we just take another 2-mana creature. More creatures to curve into the champion with. And this is another mana sink as well. Definitely the weakest mana sink we have so far, but it's more valuable than most other 2-mana 2/2s once you hit the late game. Well, Golgari Locket's looking pretty okay right now. Would much prefer Golgari Guildgate, but we're absolutely willing to try to splash a Vraska in here. And that would have been the other reason to take Circuitous Route that I wasn't thinking. We would much rather have a Circuitous Route in here than a Hunted Witness, so we could pick up like one Swamp or one Golgari Guildgate to cast Vraska, but she's a very powerful card, certainly worth the splash. At the absolute worst, 4 mana for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker, -3 to destroy one of their cheap permanents is quite good. And that is like the bare minimum that she will do. So we're really looking for Golgari Guildgates now, but awkwardly enough, we are going to take the hardest to cast card out of this pack just because it's by far the most powerful. Conclave Cavalier, 2 green and 2 white for a 4/4 Vigilance, and when it dies you get 2 2/2s with Vigilance. Really solid card here. The only thing I don't like about it is how difficult the mana cost is, especially when we're very likely to be trying to splash in an off-color card here. This will be a really easy Golgari Guildgate here. Really want to be able to cast Vraska. Wow, we are really getting paid off in this pack. This is fantastic. Venerated Loxodon, a great creature to convoke into. Not only is it a 4/4 on the board, which is a decent power and toughness and likely to be the largest thing at the time we cast it, it will put a +1/+1 counter onto every creature that we tap to cast it. So very nice card to pick up here. Flight of Equinox is okay. I think Venerated Loxodon's a little better. Definitely a little more exciting. So we can take another Golgari Locket. I am much less of a fan of splashing with Lockets because they cost us a main deck card instead of just a land slot. I am going to take another Selesnya Guildgate. We do need that mana fixing for stuff like Conclave Cavalier, and having a Guildgate in here does help splash Vraska as well. Even though it doesn't produce black mana, we can play this and run like one less forest so that we can run one more swamp, you know? I don't know if that made a lot of sense, but I've heard much better players than myself describe it in a way that makes much more sense. So I know it's for sure a thing. We could take a Take Heart to go with our mentor stuff, but I think at this point, I'm probably even cutting the first one. I don't think this is really going to be a pump spell deck just because of how much stuff we have going on in our favor outside of trying to do random mentor-y tricks. I think now we're just trying to cast good cards on curve, and a Rosemane Centaur works right into that theme. Might of the Mass is another pump spell that could potentially be pretty huge, but Rosemane Centaur is just really good, and I've been looking for those for a while. Probably not playing another Loxodon Restorer. I don't even know if I'm playing the first one. I don't know about this stuff. Probably sideboard. Unfortunate we're not going to get any more mana fixing for the Vraska. I don't want to cut the Vraska, but that might happen. We'll have to see how our deck looks with and without Vraska. Portcullis Fine's actually okay. Gives us another creature to ramp into champion with. Take another Golgari Locket, I guess. Could splash off of those lockets. So we get to cut a lot of cards out of here. We only got 3 non-basic lands in the deck right now, which means we have 28 non-land cards. We get to cut 5 cards here. I think this is going to be a 17-land deck. Got plenty going on at 4 and 5. Even with Convoke, Siege Worm's still going to cost us probably 4 or 5 mana. We definitely want to hit all our lands on curve up to probably turn 4. Just waiting on our last pick, and it's a Gird for Battle. Pretty unlikely to play that here. Okay. I get to cut 5 cards. It's definitely one of those decisions that people are going to have very varying opinions on whether you splash the Vraska or not in this deck with just one Golgari Guildgate. No other fixing. I mean, well, 2 green-white duels, but no other fixing for black specifically. This is a question I'll be asking myself for ages. Maybe I swap between every round. One round I'll play with Vraska, and the next round I'll play without Vraska. And the round after that I'll play with Vraska. I don't know. So we do need to cut 5 cards, so we need to cut 4 non-Vraska cards for sure, so we can do that first. Those should be the easier choices. I feel like I've got a lot going on at 2. We might be able to cut 1. Kind of want to cut the Recluse. It is fine with our Mentor stuff, but just kind of thick and slow for my tastes. But we kind of do want random slow dorks to slow our opponents down. You know, on that thought, yeah, our deck does look like it's quite good at winning a long game. So maybe we're okay to actually cut a little bit of our 2s. Definitely like the Hunted Witnesses and the Healer's Hawk maybe. And focus more at just trying to survive the early turns. And then just overwhelm our opponent with larger cards than whatever they've got going on. Could cut the Witnesses. Fortunately, Sunhome Stalwart doesn't really have anything to mentor without that, but it's still a 2-mana 2/2 first strike. We're definitely not cutting that. We're definitely cutting like 10th District Guard before that. Maybe even Skyline Scout. Yeah, flying on the attacks doesn't seem like the kind of thing we're super looking for. We'd much prefer like flying on the defense or reach. Plus, we have to dump mana into that, and by the time we're in the late game where we're having extra mana to dump, we'll have better mana sinks, ideally. Like spitting out creatures. 2 cards to cut. I guess I can cut the Vine out. And then we cut Vraska. If we don't cut Vraska, maybe we cut a Sworn Companions. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Sworn Companions. So, this is kind of what the deck looks like if we're keeping Golgari in here. If we're keeping Vraska, the Golgari Queen herself, in here. Otherwise, we can cut Vraska and throw in like a Skyline Scout or a Hunted Witness, just have a more consistent mana base. More likely to be able to curve out with the Ledev Champion. This is definitely one of those decks I would love to see some discussion in the comments about. Maybe we can start some arguments in the comment section between people. Team cut the Vraska and team don't cut the Vraska. Team splash the Vraska. I don't know. I'm so even on this. I honestly don't know which I prefer. But maybe the comments will be all aligned one direction, and it'll be like the opposite of the way I went, and I'll feel stupid. We'll see. I'm gonna keep Vraska in and leave the deck like this. There are other deck building choices that are debatable here. In every one of my decks, there's always debatable deck building choices. That's just the name of the game. Like, we can cut, even if we're keeping Vraska in, we can cut some of our stuff that just slows down our opponent, like Hitchclaw Recluse. Maybe a couple more higher mana cost stuff to throw the Hunted Witnesses back in, go for a lower curve, try to cheese people out with the Dev Champion more. I kind of like sticking with it as is. We definitely need to make sure our mana's as good as we can make it, though. So let's check. We've got 1 black mana symbol, obviously that's on Vraska, 16 white mana symbols, and 14 green mana symbols. So 16 to 14 is pretty even, but we do have 3 non-basics that tap for green and only 2 non-basics that tap for white. So we essentially have 8 green sources here and 9 white sources. That seems pretty correct. We want very slightly more white than green based on our mana distribution. Our white and green are pretty even on when we want to cast them. Because we have 1 white 1-drop, no green 1-drops, because Prey Upon we're going to play later with a big creature. 2 white 2-drops and 2 green 2-drops, like exact split there. These are both either. Exact split at 3. I guess 1 more white card at 3. So we have slightly more early white than we have early green, but Luminous Bonds is also more of a late game play sometimes. So really even on white and green at the early drops, except Healer's Hawk. Healer's Hawk makes it slightly more white cards that we need a plains for in the early game than green cards. So I like the 1 more white source in the deck seems right to me, and we want the 3 black sources to splash in the Vraska. With 3 black sources, we hit 1 in about every 13-ish cards. So we might not cast Vraska till late game, but she's so powerful that it's kind of worth it. In this deck as well, we could very well have random dorky creatures that suck, like Iron Shell Beetle to sacrifice to her +2 ability and draw cards, or we could have a sick combo and we just start sacrificing like 1/1 tokens we're making with Ladev Champion to her. Lots of stuff we could potentially do with her. I'm going to leave her in the deck for now, and let's head into our first round of gameplay. But I'm not so sure on the choice there. That is one of those moments too. I might even like screen cap that and go ask somebody online, but obviously I'm not going to do that in the middle of my draft video, so we're just going to go with my gut there. This is a little awkward. Only 1 card is immediately castable, that's Sunhome's Stalwart. Other than that, we need to draw at least a land to hit Hitchclaw Recluse. If we hit Hitchclaw Recluse, we can cast Venerated Loxodon, tapping both of those. Because, obviously, if we hit the Recluse, we've got 3 lands on board, plus 2 creatures. I'll go ahead and keep this. A little bit risky, but we've got both of our colors. Don't need to draw a land immediately, but obviously we would like to as soon as possible. Looks like our opponent had to mulligan twice, so they may be starting with a 5-card hand here. They are on the draw, though, so it's not as bad as mulling to 5 on the play. Yep, 5-card hand for our opponent. So we'll start off with the plains, pass turn, see what they've got going on. Mountain to start it off, and we did immediately draw the land, immediately rewarded. I am all about that. Opponent is on Boros, starting off with an Ornery Goblin. Do I want to attack into that? Ooh, Iron Shell Beetle too. Iron Shell Beetle is real exciting. Being able to pump up the Stalwart even more. If I play Hitchclaw Recluse, yeah, I think I attack into this and then I just play Hitchclaw Recluse. They can't block and kill my Stalwart, so they just take 2, and then Hitchclaw Recluse holds off the Ornery Goblin from cracking back. This leaves me open to be able to cast Venerated Loxodon, tapping these 2 next turn if I want to put some counters on them, and get a 4/4 out. Or if I draw a land, I can play Woodshaper, or Parhelion Patrol. If I draw a land, I can do whatever I want here, really. Do I want to eat up their removal spell here? Their pump spell? Could be a Sure Strike or a Take Heart or something like that. I think I do. I'd rather get that out of the way, have them save an Ornery Goblin with it, than wait and maybe have them Sure Strike with a Mentor creature out and get extra value out of it. So we are trading our Hitchclaw Recluse for their Sure Strike here. But that is a risk I was super willing to take on that block. Now, we can't afford the Loxodon now. Kind of want to do Shieldmate over the Iron Shell Beetle, because then if I don't draw another land, I could go Shieldmate into next turn Beetle on the Stalwart, and then Stalwart Mentors onto Shieldmate. for a really cool attack. I suppose I should attack first, because I'm not really going to be blocking their little 2-1. If I really want to, I could trade it with the Vernati Shieldmate. But I don't think I'm going to get on the defensive here unless they play something really good. Sky Knight Legionnaire, I think I'd still just crack back at them. The 2-2 Flying Haste. Yeah, I think I'd definitely, even if they do something really aggressive like Sky Knight Legionnaire, because Parhelion Patrol would be able to stonewall that if they've run out of pump spells. Just hold that off. Yeah, there's the Sky Knight Legionnaire, so they did do something really aggressive. Not attacking with the Ornery Goblin, though, so they didn't even offer that trade. I can actually afford to play Iron Shell Beetle and Venerated Loxodon with all of my cards. All my creatures, just get counters onto all of them. I can't afford Iron Shell Beetle and Wood Shaper. I do really like attacking for 6 here, but then the only thing I'm playing is the Iron Shell Beetle. That is the part I don't like about it. I'm at 18 here. They're only threatening 2 damage a turn. With Iron Shell Beetle out, they threaten 4 a turn. I think I can take the time. Not putting really more creatures out to just get in for 6. Or I could really take the time and Venerated Loxodon here. You know, let's really take the time and just make an overwhelming board. Just not even send in the 6 this turn. Just go for a really big swing next turn. Oh yeah, my creatures have really leveled up here. 4/4 First Strike Mentor, 3/3 Vigilance, 2/2, and a 4/4. When the Sunhome Stalwart attacks in, we can even turn the Shieldmate into a 4/4 Vigilance. We just built our own Rosemane Centaur. Feels pretty good. If they don't use any removal here, I think that will be the play, just making the Shieldmate a 4/4 Vigilance so it can't die to the Ornery Goblin. But if they don't do any attacks here, they can of course do double blocks on some of our stuff. Tajik. We'll see if they still get aggressive here. They might even just Tajik and have to block, which certainly feels bad for them, but if that's the position you're in, you kind of got to play to your position. And I think they're probably still on the defensive here. And it looks to be so. They are holding back the Tajik. Still pinging me for 2 with the Sky Knight Legionnaire, of course, but there's our mana for Vraska. Very nice. Do I want to play Sumala Wood Shaper to be able to block Legionnaire? I think I'd rather play the Wood Shaper. But first, we definitely attack. They can't kill Stalwart no matter what off the attacks. They could kill one of our 4/4s if they double block, but then I'm killing both their creatures. They can't kill Iron Shell Beetle because they don't have the mana to give First Strike. They can't kill the Beetle without trading. Oh yeah, we've got a great attack here. Don't need to overthink it. They've got 1 mana up. The only thing they could really have is Integrity for +2/+2 for 1 mana. And even that is not that bad for us. That only turns Tajik into a 5/4, which still trades for any of our 4/4s. They don't even get to kill something without trading. They do have the Integrity. Oh yeah, they can buff the Ornery Goblin as well. But yeah, it doesn't make anything big enough to like block and not trade with our big creatures, which is what would be really scary. Alright, so we are going to get rid of that Ornery Goblin, swing in for a lot. They're down to 6 now. We're at 16. I think I dropped the Wood Shaper, take that Sky Knight Legionnaire damage, and chump block Tajik. Because since Tajik is still on the board, we know that they can just Mentor onto the Legionnaire and make it a 3/3 if they really want to get aggressive, in which case Parhelion Patrol is just not going to block it anyway. I think Ledev Champion's the pick, right? Because we're about to have 5 mana. We don't know what we're going to top deck. That'll give us multiple plays. Just spamming its ability every turn if we keep drawing lands. Our opponent does need to stabilize first, so we also kind of want the most aggressive creature we can take out of the top, and Ledev Champion's pretty much tied for that thanks to its +1/+1 ability, tapping any number of creatures we have. Basically allows us to tap any creature that we make for an additional damage the turn it comes into play, so kind of giving some of our creatures like pseudo haste. So say I play Ledev Champion, and then the turn after I play Parhelion Patrol, usually Parhelion Patrol will just be sitting there not getting any damage in, but with Ledev Champion's ability I can tap that to potentially push more Ledev Champion damage in. So it definitely helps on the aggro. Our opponent has 2 cards in hand and they're going into the think tank. The rope is coming out. See what plans they've got. Deafening Clarion for lifelink to their team, so they even had the board wipe, but because we're a Selesnya deck, we've got these thick creatures that will even survive the Deafening Clarion, and mainly thanks to that Venerated Loxodon. So they're up at 12 now. That puts them at alive. They take 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, so they are not quite dead here. But we are absolutely still just going to spam that all attack. But because of that, I will play Parhelion Patrol first to be incredibly safe in case they somehow can give Sky Knight Legionnaire double strike and a bunch more power. Really don't think there's anything there. But just in case, get that flying blocker out there. So that is the first win for Selesnya Splash and Vraska. And that's 1 win and no losses, starting off with a positive record. Feels pretty nice. All right. Heading into our next round. It would be really cool to hit Diamond tier in this video. That would be awesome. This is quite a good starting hand as well. Vernati Shieldmate turn 2 into a Blade Instructor that can mentor onto it. Could play Ledev Champion turn 3, but I think that Shieldmate into Instructor is going to be a little more impressive. Our opponent starts with Golgari Guildgate and then Boros Guildgate, so here we go again. Everybody loves their 5-color. I can't get away from it. Maybe I can get away from it if I play some Call Time when that comes out. Maybe 5-color won't be a strategy there, but played 10 Arena Cube drafts, played against 5-color at least once every draft, and now we're in Guilds of Ravnica and I'm playing against 5-color at least once every draft. It just won't stop happening. And they do have the Lava Coil to remove our first creature that we play, which was our Blade Instructor, sadly. But we can follow it up with Ledev Champion now. Ledev Champion plus Shieldmate will make it so I'm attacking with a 2/2 and a 3/3, thanks to Ledev Champion's ability. So I'm getting in just as much damage with these 2 creatures as I would with the Blade Instructor. I guess no, I would Mentor, so I'd get in for 1 more damage with the Blade Instructor. There's the Assassin's Trophy. Do we want to pick up the Swamp just to be funny? I've got 3 planes in hand, might as well. If I'm playing... No, we'll play the best we can. We'll just pick up a Forest. Because I've got literally only 1 black mana symbol in my entire deck. We already got the Guildgate. We're fine. But I could be like, haha, thank you for the Swamp. Look at my beautiful double black, triple green, triple white. Uh-oh, here comes Guild Summit. That means every time they play a land, they're going to draw a card now. Here we go. I hope I wasn't drafting with this person. And they're the ones scooping up all my mana fixing. If I wasn't drafting with them, I was at least drafting with someone drafting very similarly, I feel. The gates were flying away real quick. Don't really want to put a Recluse on this board. It would be 2 more damage thanks to Parhelion Patrol's Mentor, but they could very much have Finality or something here. Ooh, the Indrik to kill the Parhelion Patrol. So now we send in with Conclave Cavalier, and if they trade there, we're getting some 2/2 Knights to send in with those. Just gonna pass turn again. I might be playing way too safe, but I've been Clarioned so many times. I guess I haven't been Finality in this set yet. Or Ritual of Sooted, but those are two other things they could cast with their double black over there. Crawl Forgers is really going to put a stop to my aggression. Even if I had both these creatures on board, that would stop that too. There's the Prey Upon. There's a Swamp. Yeah. Now if they Ritual of Soot, it's a one-sided Wrath. That would destroy everything with converted mana cost 3 or less. Finality would also be a one-sided Wrath and turn Forgers into a 6/6, so I think I'm dead regardless if they have those now. So let's just put the creatures out. Get ready to possibly go wide. Attack with all of these for 2 apiece, lose 1 creature to do 6 to them. But they probably have more creatures in hand thanks to all of the cards they're drawing off Guild Summit. At least more removal spells. Definitely have a lot of those. Every card in their graveyard is a removal spell in one way or another. 2 fight cards, one of which is a creature, and then 2 straight up removal spells. Siege Worm would not be the worst draw if our opponent didn't literally just play a Siege Worm of their own. Unfortunately, the Siege Worms will just kill each other, and we won't accomplish anything. Legion War Boss. I guess that is one of the perks of playing 5-color. You can kind of play whatever rare you get. War Boss isn't really going to do anything here, so I'm not super scared. The more creatures they put on this board, the more safer I feel against a board wipe, so there's that going for me. Hellkite Whelp is going to start chipping away at me, so I really don't like that. The Hellkite Whelp, every time it attacks, it gets to do 1 damage to any target. Well, any creature I control. They just target Hitchclaw Recluse. That makes my Hitchclaw Recluse only a 1/3 reach, which means that my Recluse dies if it blocks, so I have to kind of just take 3 a turn for a while, and I don't love that. There's Crawl Forgers for our opponent, gaining more life, getting another big creature out. And another Hitchclaw Recluse isn't that big, it's just a decent blocker. Parhelion Patrol's not the worst draw. I can double block Hellkite Whelp to kill it now, and they can only kill one of our blockers. They'll definitely kill Parhelion Patrol, which obviously I would rather keep, but it's better than just constantly getting attacked by the Whelp. Oops. So we'll block there, and then we'll block with whatever we don't really care if it dies. I guess Sunhump Stalwart has first strike, so that makes the block there not very, not risky, really. Hypothesizzle, the instant speed removal spell to just kill the Parhelion Patrol and force the Hellkite or Hitchclaw Recluse to die as well. That's rough, but we're not losing anything massive there. Venerated Loxodon. Unfortunately, I can't really afford to tap many creatures here because they've got 2 4/4s and a 5/5 trample. I think, do I just tap all my 2-power creatures? Then if they all attack, I get to block Siege Worm, Crawl Forgers, I take... No, I'm in such a bad spot. I'm actually in a really bad position if they had just clicked all attack last turn, too. I don't think I can afford to tap any creatures here. So Stalwart holds off War Boss by itself, so we go bam, 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 bam. Maybe I just keep Stalwart untapped and that's it. I think that's it. Opponent's just never not gonna draw 2 cards a turn. See what they got going on here. Looks like another targeted removal spell. Jesus. Prey upon away the Venerated Loxodon. That makes my blocks really bad again. At least that means the Siege Worm doesn't really get in, because then I would block with Stalwart. Honestly, with the field my opponent has versus the field I have, I think all attacking is still good here, to be honest. Even if they lose Siege Worm. I take 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I go to just dead no matter what next turn if they just click all attack. But they don't know what card I have. If it was Assemble or something to get 3 2/2s, that'd be pretty lethal. So my options here are to take 11 or lose my Siege Worm in a trade. Both of these are terrible options that I'm left with. What are my outs now? I don't even think I have outs to play to. Normally you'd want to do whatever leaves you with an out, and I don't know what leaves me with an out here. I'm going to not block. I mean, our opponent's at 12. Maybe a Bounty of Might will just appear in our deck to give +9/+9 wherever we want. Looks like that did not happen. So we probably just lose. One thing I will say is the Vraska Splash has been 100% okay so far. I suppose... Oh, I guess our opponent dies if they had all attacked, because 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, that's what's stopping them from all attacking. I'm really bad at thinking about my opponent's life total in a defensive manner. I think one of the best things you can do to get better at Magic is try to put yourself in your opponent's shoes and consider things exactly from their perspective. But I'm doing a really bad job of that right now with why they're attacking the way they're attacking. I'm purely thinking about like where my creatures would trade and how much damage it would deal to me. I'm not thinking about how much they would be taking. And they really need to be considerate of that. Here's a wild Ceratok. But, alright, I'm just dead to the flyer. It's Flungin. I was going to say, with how the games are going so far, in terms of our mana base, the Vraska Splash has been 100% fine. I think our mana has been perfect both games so far. Haven't really had any issues. Yep, and they just have fantastic blocks, so... That was the last second flunge. Maybe they missed the block button or something. Head into game 3. Still a 0-win record against 5-color. That just really irritates me on a personal level. I don't know. I hate seeing the 5-color decks not get punished for 75% of their mana base coming into play tapped. It just, I don't know, it grinds my gears on a personal level somehow. It's probably because I used to be the kind of player that was like super into trying to do that kind of stuff. And I was like, that seems so fun. And it was like my little Timmy self with like my colored glasses and everything. I was like, yeah, let's do 5-color. And then I would just lose every game. Just get slammed by Boros aggro every single draft. Be like, all right, let's go. And then my opponent does Torch Courier, Sunhome Stalwart. Now it's a 2/2 haste with a Sunhome Stalwart behind it. Turn 3, Tajik. Sunhome Stalwart's a 3/3 first strike mentor. And then I just die on like turn 4. Just the actual worst. It's probably that. It's probably just envy. I want to be the 5-color player in those games. But instead, they're just here to haunt me. Dead weight on the Sunhome Stalwart. It is a sad day for the mentor. I think we just drop Rosemane Centaur, right? I could attack and play Parhelion Patrol, but I can't block Dimir Spybug with that anyway. I'm gonna play the Centaur, yeah. I don't love trading Centaur for their Darkblade Agent. And if they have Dazzling Lights, their Darkblade Agent would kill my Centaur without even dying, so that would be really bad. I don't think I can block the agent if they leave up a blue mana, which they currently have. Dazzling Lights is a 1 blue mana instant to give -3 power to a creature until end of turn, and they surveil too. So if they have a Dazzling Lights in hand and they just drew 2 cards that they chose to leave there, blocking is horrible here. So I'm not going to block just in case of that. The problem with that is Darkblade Agent is so good that means they just get to draw a card then. Alright, 5 mana. Only enough to play Parhelion Patrol or Iron Shell Beetle. Can't do both. Can send in with the Rosemane Centaur. Could send in with Conclave Guildmage as well, but that plays really poorly into Dazzling Lights as well. So we're hitting for 4, they're down to 14. And I think we drop a Parhelion Patrol over an Iron Shell Beetle. We can get the value of the Iron Shell Beetle's +1/+1 counter next turn, and we can even get more value out of it by throwing the counter onto our mentor creature, potentially mentoring up a 2-power creature like Conclave Guildmage. That being said, I don't think that's something I'm going to want to do. I'll probably want to be just tapping out for Guildmage's ability to create 2/2s. Highly doubt I want to get into combat with my Guildmage when it's potentially a never-ending factory of Elf Knights. Yet again, mana's doing well and good here. The Vraska Splash still seems perfectly reasonable. We're just probably never going to draw the Vraska, because that's how life goes sometimes. I like Healer's Hawk alongside the Parhelion Patrol. That also gives me 2 creatures to potentially double block the Spybug. Only thing I don't like about this is it makes it so I can't tap out for Guildmage here. I think I will go ahead and commit to that, though. We'll throw a counter onto our Parhelion Patrol. Maybe the Rosemane Centaur, but if our opponent has a single instant speed surveil card, Rosemane Centaur's already screwed. Whereas Parhelion Patrol's in the sky, so we can send that into combat pretty freely right now. I don't think there's anything at instant speed that'll give one of their creatures flying, but there's certainly Surveil at instant speed, which would give Darkblade Agent Death Touch to trade for our Centaur. Would also put another counter on the Phantasm, make that a 3/3. Artful Takedown on these two, give it -2/-4, and to tap another creature. Alright, literally doesn't matter. They could have done that later too. Would have done the same thing. Even if the +1/+1 counter resolved, we'd only have 4 toughness. So, can't feel that bad about it. They were probably already planning on doing that. Deadly Visit on the Conclave Guild Gauge? Guild Mage means that there's going to be no 2/2 Elf Knights for us. That I'm very unhappy about. I think our odds of winning this game are starting to get particularly low. I think we're about to be at that 1-2 start. We are off against another Dimir deck with pretty much all of the payoffs as far as I can see so far. We see Spybug and Phantasm and Darkblade Agent. That is the common and both of the great uncommon creature payoffs for Surveil decks. All 3 of those cards are pretty fantastic. And I don't have any blocks here. Unless I want to stop them from drawing a card. I could chump block with a Beetle to do that. Ooh. I actually get to cast a Siege Worm against a Dimir deck when they're tapped out. Hey, feels good. I suppose they aren't tapped out. They do have 1 mana. They could Dazzling Lights my Rosemane Centaur and make me cry a little. Let's see if it happens. Nope. Well, looks like they didn't have Dazzling Lights all game. Dazzling Lights would, of course, turned Centaur into a 1/4 and their Phantasm into a 4/4. That would not have been good for me. So we get them down to 9. We're putting up a respectable fight against this Dimir deck. Plenty of the good common Surveil cards as well. Great Removal, Deadly Visit, Artful Takedown, and Deadweight we've seen so far. This is the second Notion Rain. So far, every card I've seen from their deck is quite good, except Vidalcan Mesmerist. If I were playing their deck, I would be very happy with every single card except Mesmerist in the deck so far. Mesmerist's okay, it's definitely good when you're on the aggressive in a blue deck. That just doesn't happen a crazy amount. Obviously, it's very much happening here, though. If I let them take this damage, how likely am I to be able to just kill them next turn? I only hit for 7, unfortunately. They can block my Centaur with their Thoughtbound Phantasm. And then I hit for 7 with everybody else if they have no more creatures or removal in hand. So if I draw Vraska, I could crack back for lethal. I don't think that trading for Darkblade Agent is going to put me in a position where I could be winning this game, because I'll still literally just die next turn. I die to 2 swings from Dimir Spybug no matter what, and that's going to be incredibly difficult to block. And if the plan is to block it, I'm just going to be losing whatever I chump with. Yeah, I'm just going to no-blocks it. We're going to go absolutely crazy, try to top deck something insane here. It's not super likely, but give us a chance. Okay, well, they just Artful Takedown in our upkeep before we even draw. We have no chance. Very smart use of the stop feature there. They do that in the upkeep so that I can't draw into a pump spell that would save whatever they're trying to -2, -4. Did draw a blocker that can block the Spybug, but I'm just going to be chump blocking it with Healer's Hawk and Parhelion Patrol, so we're still very out of this game. We double block Dimir Spybug with Patrol and Hawk unless they have a single removal spell in their gigantic hand, which I assume they do. If they do, we die on the spot. If they don't, we double block there and send the Beetle at the Thoughtbound Phantasm, because I assume at the very least they're going to Surveil one more time. There's the removal spell. So we're incredibly dead. Not much to say there, just a really good build of the best guild in the set. Pretty cookie cutter, by the books game. Impressively drafted and played from our opponent. Good stuff altogether. Alright, so we're at 1 win and 2 losses. We have still not had a single mana issue so far, which is really impressive, especially with this hand. You would really expect to have some mana issues with 3 colors of cards in this hand. But no, we're doing pretty well. Do I want to drop Dissident on turn 2 no matter what, or Instructor on turn 3 no matter what? I think I would rather make sure I get a Dissident out this turn. If I draw another basic land, obviously I can just curve out, but there's no way, yeah, I was going to say, there's no way that I'm not going to play the Guild Gate here, because I really want to be able to Vraska turn 4. I suppose Vraska's really best ability is just destroying one of our opponent's cards, so if they don't immediately have a card we need to destroy, I can hold off on Vraska. I don't have anything I want to sacrifice for her +2, so that's not particularly impressive. And the fact that we drew it into a Venerated Loxodon makes me really want to tap some creatures and get that out next turn. Yeah, this will be a little weird, but I'm actually going to hold off on Vraska if I don't draw basic. I'm just going to play that Guildgate turn 4 then. Alright, yeah, and we drew Temple Garden. Unless I draw a basic, you say. Our deck gives us a really nice non-basic. So I'm actually not going to play Loxodon this turn if that is the case, because I get to swing in for 6 that turn, which seems pretty huge. I'm just going to play Vraska. I do have a 5 mana card in hand, however, I don't need black mana for anything in particular. We're going to have 4 mana even with this Guildgate. I'm actually going to draw a card here. Oof. One of the few cards we could have drawn that I actually do want as much mana as possible. I suppose I do have the mana sinks as well, but I think in this position I'm really trying to draw some cheap cards to get really aggressive. Just outpace the Boros deck. Slam them with our Vraska. There's Parhelion Patrol. We're absolutely going to prey upon that. It is outside of Vraska's range, but not prey upon's. So we get in for 6 again this turn, 1 more swing and they're dead. And here I'm going to +2 for no value. I definitely don't want to sacrifice a land when I've got a really good 4-drop that can use all these lands. And I'm definitely not sacrificing a creature when I'm as aggressive as I am right now. Vraska is actually really close to her ultimate too. Am I going to win with a Vraska ultimate? Probably not. Probably just going to hit him for 6 on the board. Yep, Wojek Bodyguard is a really unfortunate card for our opponent, and there's the concession because of it. They already know I can destroy Ornery Goblin. Wojek Bodyguard can't block by itself, so if we kill the Goblin and Wojek Bodyguard is the only creature on board, we just get to attack for 6 with those 2 creatures. So that game went quite well. I think we played pretty much as well as possible and drew quite well. I mean, we had the Vraska and we drew the exact mana we needed to be able to curve out and still play Vraska turn 4. Pretty lucky game for us, but I think we also played correctly. There was that turn where I was debating between whether I wanted to play my 2-2 for sure or play my 3-1 for sure. And then I played that correctly, and then there was debating whether or not I wanted to do the Loxodon, and that played out correctly. So a lot of luck, but a little bit of just maybe a tiny bit of skill too. Just pushing our advantage. This is the first hand where we might get screwed by the mana, which would make sense. I mean, statistically, I'm not likely to draw a swamp for quite a while here, but I'm still going to keep it. I have turn 2 Conclave Guildmage into turn 3 Ledev Champion. Excuse me. That's pretty nice because it allows Conclave Guildmage to actually help me do damage. Otherwise, I don't often want to be sending Conclave Guildmage into combat, but with Ledev Champion, I can just tap my Conclave Guildmage to help that get in combat. It is the mirror match. Boros Party. Conclave Guildmage versus Conclave Guildmage. Let's go. Could have sent in there if I wanted to offer the trade, but I don't really feel like it. They probably just block with Portcullis Vine, and then I'm sitting here with nothing. So Pelt Collector gets bigger when stuff dies, doesn't it? Whenever another creature enters the battlefield or dies, if its power is greater, it gets bigger. So if I fight off that Conclave Guildmage, unfortunately, Pelt Collector will get bigger. So I think I'm just going to attack with Champion, tap my friends, and now they don't have any blocks that don't require chumping the creature. They don't have any Mentor or anything, so they just crack back for 3 on board. They'll probably play another creature and crack back for 4, but that puts us at an even race, and I'm fine with that. No creature here, so just attacking with the 1/1 Pelt Collector. Poke us down to 19. Makes sense though, Pelt Collector's very unlikely to block at this point in the game. I am 1 mana away from starting to make 2/2s with our Conclave Guildmage, but so is our opponent. I really want to kill their Conclave Guildmage, so I think I'm going to be prey uponing after combat here. We're going to attack with these 2. Tap down all of my untapped creatures to make that 4 power. We're okay taking the crackback from their Pelt Collector, even if it will be cracking back for 2 after this. They do have Collar the Culprit to kill the Dev Champion. That's absolutely hilarious. Well, it's like the only thing that could hose me if I pumped those 2. Unfortunate. Well, now I know they're tapped out and I can kill Conclave Guildmage. Well, they do have 1 mana. They do have 1 mana. If they just Collar the Culprit into Take Heart me, okay, I was gonna say, I would be in a real world of hurt. But that's one of those things that I would be just getting destroyed by those cards, because those are cards that I very, very rarely consider playing in Selesnya. So I just don't expect them from my opponent. Ooh, yeah, we are going to get hit by the mana a little bit here. Oops. 5, 6, 7. If I want to play Siege Worm, I'm tapping everything for it. And they have Hitchclaw Recluse, so that's actually kind of okay. I can't get in for any damage this turn anyway. Our opponent does have enough mana to start spitting out 2/2 Knights, so they made it to the Knights before we did. And I don't love that. Well, now we've got Knight mana. Certainly don't have Cavalier mana, but we've got Knight mana. Set in with the Siege Worm. See what blocks they make. If they have 3 2/2s on this board, they block with Pelt Collector, Knight, and Hitchclaw Recluse, probably. That's fine. No blocks. Okay. Put them down to 9. Fine with me. I suppose I should have sent Parhelion Patrol in as well, because the only thing that happens there is they block Hitchclaw Recluse, or block with Hitchclaw Recluse. Neither of our creatures kill each other there, so there's no risk in attacking with Parhelion Patrol. And by attacking with Parhelion Patrol, if they wanted to block Siege Worm with 2 2/2s and the 1/4, we would get a couple damage in that way. So it looks like they don't even want to be making Knights for a while. They've got plenty of other plays, like Conclave Cavalier, and sacrificing their Selesnya Locket earlier. Opponent is down to 9, so I don't expect an attack here. If they do, we'll just take it. Alright, going to my turn, let's get a Knight. We certainly don't have anything else to do with our mana. Ooh. Venerated Loxodon. What do I want to do with you? Conclave Cavalier puts a really nice block on our Siege Worm, because they can block with Cavalier into 2/2, or they probably block with Cavalier and the Pelt Collector. I can only kill 1, and then when Cavalier dies, they get 2 Knights anyway. Kind of want to just hold on to Loxodon and make more Knights here, and we are just staring at our opponent, because putting another counter onto Parhelion Patrol doesn't do anything that crazy. It does give it the power to be able to start mentoring our 2-power creatures, but... well, maybe putting a counter on literally everything is good. But then I'm not making a 2/2. Would be making a 4/4 instead. With Cavalier's Vigilance, my best block's easily Siege Worm, so if I tap that down to that, then I can't block it without a creature dying. You know... I'm going to do that. Sure, we're not tapping out to make a 2/2 this turn, so we're not utilizing our Guildmage's ability to the best extent. We're actually spending a card to make a creature here instead of just paying mana. But 4/4 is a better creature, and this promotes Parhelion Patrol to big enough to start mentoring any of our 2/2 Knights in the future. I don't think it's really going to come into play, but our blocks are still really safe with just a 5/5 and a 4/4. There's a Crawl Harpooner that is, even with that +1/+1 counter, unfortunately still big enough to fight off the Parhelion Patrol. So that feels real bad. Plus it triggers Pelt Collector's ability. Crawl Harpooner was a pretty great draw for our opponent. The Patrol is just absolutely gone now. And we have another Siege Worm. If I play Siege Worm here, I don't get a token. I can deal with that. Don't think I'm attacking this turn. Yeah, let's just get that Siege Worm out, I guess. Again, if I attack with Siege Worm, they're only going to lose their Conclave Cavalier, and they're going to get extra tokens. I suppose What, they block with Cavalier and Hitchclaw Recluse, and then I could kill Hitchclaw Recluse instead. That way I can lower the number of creatures they have and potentially get them to a position where I have enough to trample through with Guildmage's ability. Yeah, attacking with Siege Worm, I'm at least killing a 4/4, and now I have a backup Siege Worm. Probably should have thought about this before I cast the second Siege Worm, so they might have been like really banking on me not having another Siege Worm out of nowhere. I'm actually going to send in here. Venerate Loxodon probably just trades for Cavalier, but I think that's fine at this point. Because now we have 3/3 creatures to block their 2/2 tokens. They can't kill either of these creatures without sending some kind of real blocker in. They can't just throw a Hitchclaw Recluse and a 2/2 token at him and kill him. So that's it. Alright, we're going to kill the Cavalier then, I guess. We are going to pop it into 2/2s now. So our opponent will have a lot of 2/2s. Luckily, we have a field that's very good at blocking a lot of 2/2s. Not the greatest at attacking into them still. But we can give everything trample with our Guildmage in any turn that would be relevant. If we ever get the black mana for Vraska, we can kind of just sit behind all our creatures and start poking away at their stuff with the -3. I mean, especially, we'll just immediately kill their Guildmage if that happens. If I attack with everybody now, how do they kill Siege Worm? Siege Worm is Pelt Collector and Hitchclaw Recluse. Venerated Loxodon's just 2/2/2s. I cannot attack well here, I feel, and rather just have a 2/2 Knight than the Dissidents. Well, we gotta do the math with the trample. I'll have 4, 5, 6, 7, 12 plus 4. I'll have 16 power on my field that will all have trample by tapping Guildmage. So 16 minus 6, 10, minus 16. Okay, I still just do 0. Even if I play Dissident, pump it, and give trample, which would require another green source. So we just don't have attacks this turn. We don't have attacks next turn, even with a Dissident on the field. It's going to be a long one. But our opponent's down to 5, and I've got a Vraska lying in wait. That could be pretty big, because if I drop Vraska down and kill Guildmage, the only way they can kill it is by just slamming the all-attack button into Vraska, and then I get to kill multiple of their attackers with really good blocks. So I think Vraska will be huge if we can cast her later. As Planeswalkers tend to be, especially in a board stall like this, where you have creatures to defend them. Going to my turn, let's get our knights. Oh my god. That's embarrassing. I am 1 mana away from being able to cast Dissident and make a knight, so we're looking forward to that, but until then, my opponent and myself are going to be staring at each other. This is another time I would like to recommend one of the very nice features on YouTube. I actually watch a lot of draft videos in this way. You can speed up the video on the cogwheel. 1.25 speed and 1.5 times speed, whichever is more to your liking. You can definitely still understand everything that's being said at those speeds. I prefer 1.25 because then it's like the video goes faster and it doesn't even sound weird. At 1.5 times it definitely sounds weird, but it does go faster. I hate my opponent's Ledev champion a lot. But if I make my own Ledev champion, then they'll hate that a lot. But I also won't be making a token because I've drawn my mana so poorly this game to draw 6 white and 1 green source. I can't play both these creatures in one turn, which is huge. In a bad way. I guess I play Ledev champion. When they attack when they attack with their champion, I'll chump block with a 2/2. Things are starting to get away from us here, though. Just thanks to my opponent's slightly more mana than us. quite a bit more mana than us, and specifically a good even mix of colors is actually definitely catching up to us with all of the mana sinks we have. 7 mana, so I can play 10th District Guard and still make a 1/1. Yeah, make a 2/2 and a 1/1 instead of just a 2/2 Knight. If our opponent ever attacks with a Dev Champion, though, in order to make it big enough to really matter, they'll have to tap like their whole team, so I don't think that's happening. So I guess neither myself or my opponent is going to be attacking with the Dev Champion anytime soon. Like, we both have enough mana to attack, tap our whole team, and give trample, I suppose. So we really need to keep track of their Guild Mage. And if their Guild Mage is untapped with the green, we need to make sure we block Champion with a bunch of stuff. Actually, this game might turn into whoever attacks with Ledev Champion first wins, now that I'm thinking about it. And our opponent might not have thought about that. Because theoretically, I mean... no, because the problem is we leave ourselves so open. Theoretically, I send in Ledev Champion, right? I can tap a bunch of creatures and give it trample, so they have to block with a bunch of creatures. I don't lose any creatures. My creatures are just tapped, whereas they'll permanently lose whatever creatures they ended up having to block with. But no, it's still whoever blinks first loses, because then whoever survives that combat, like, so many creatures are tapped that the other person then just responds by attacking in with their own Ledev Champion. I don't know. This is just not a fun time right now. I do like that in theory, though. That's important to remember, that whoever attacks with Ledev Champion first is going to be permanently killing whatever the opponent ends up trading with the Ledev Champion, at the cost of just temporarily tapping their own creatures. There's a Hazda Marshal. Probably not going to do anything this game, but it's more creatures on the board. I have 9 creatures out. They definitely have a lot more creatures than me, so I wouldn't be surprised if they end up attacking in. The thing is, with Champion and Vigilant creatures, they could attack with every 2/2 and Ledev Champion, and tap them all to Ledev Champion. So we're getting very close to where I think our opponent may be attacking. I still don't think I'll be in a position to attack. Our opponent's field is actually quite a bit bigger than ours, doing the math, because they've got 8 2/2s. That's like as many creatures as I have total. Or at least very close. I guess I have 9. This is the dumbest mirror match. We both have 2 mana sinks. I just don't have as much mana as them, though, so they're getting to utilize their mana sinks a lot more, which is very quickly adding up. I say quickly, but the game's been a while, so it's just exponentially been adding up is what it is. Our opponent's advantage is just increasing every turn. Okay, going to my turn. Let's get a 2/2. Healer's Hawk. They do have a Hitchclaw Recluse, but it's the only flying creature on board. Could Healer's Hawk and Iron Shell Beetle to put a counter on it? Sure. I can also Healer's Hawk and still just have the mana for another night. I think I like just Iron Shell beetling a counter onto it so I can start gaining a couple life a turn by attacking with that. That's like really cute. Try to at least expand the life total lead, even if my opponent is very much getting the creature lead at this point. Now they can make a 1/1 and a 2/2 every turn. This is getting real sketchy. Oh my. I'm 21 cards into my deck and I've drawn 1 green source. Kind of nice to see the math there. What is this? What on the planet is this? I actually genuinely have no idea. Status statue to give +1/+1 and Death Touch? Is this like +1/+1 to their whole field? What is this? Do they just want to gain life? I'm real scared. I really hope it's not like +1/+1 to the whole field, because then I'm getting blown out so bad by blocking with specifically my smallest creatures. I'm scared. Okay, I guess they just wanted to gain some life. Hey, there's a Hitchclaw Recluse. They don't have any flyers. They just have Hitchclaw Recluse for reach. So Healer's Hawk is safe to just gain two. Oh, dude, maybe they forgot that the Recluse has reach. I got an attack out of my Healer's Hawk. Whatever happens here, I got an attack out of my Healer's Hawk. That's so good. Thank you, Healer's Hawk. Putting in just work there. Putting in real effort to save us from this game. All right. Nobody mentioned that Hitchclaw Recluse has reach, okay? We need to keep that a secret between us. Okay. They're just going for the life gain again. I think. Let's send the 2/2s at them. This is going to be the longest draft video I've had in a while. This one game is going to take as long as any other draft. Well, that has reach, and very specifically is designed to just have reach. So they'll probably remember that that one has reach. But who knows? I'm still going to go for the Healer's Hawk attack. No matter what, I gain 2 life off of it. Temple Garden. Well, I'm gaining 2 life again, so I'm okay to play that untapped to be able to play Conclave Cavalier. That will be the plan. Oh no! They know that their Grappling Sundew has reach. We almost got there. We almost got there. Here's Conclave Cavalier. That was that was just... Healer's Hawk tried its best. It put in some work for us. And it's gonna keep gaining us life. It's not doing nothing. It has plans. It has hopes and dreams. So now we're even more in a position where my opponent and myself are going to keep staring at each other, because now we're both going to keep gaining life. The length of this game is just compounding. Our opponent has 11 cards in library and we have 17? Do we just try to mill them out now? They're going to have to do a big trample attack with the Dev Champion at some point. And that will not be fun. That will not be fun to do the math on. I'm not going to enjoy blocking that thing. I'm at 19 though, so maybe I just won't. They could actually attack with it and tap their entire field and I could survive right now. They have 15 other creatures, so they could attack with it for 17. And then I would just not block and crack back and win. Obviously, you have to do a lot of complicated arithmetic and algebra and all of that nonsense to figure out exactly how many creatures it is ideal to attack, or to tap and attack with the Dev Champion. So that's why I'm just not even thinking about that. If I lose this game because I can't do the math in this board state, then so be it. I don't want to ever be in this kind of board state. Happens though. Selesnya mirrors, am I right? World Soul Colossus. So now they were doing the math of exactly how many creatures they could tap and still be safe. Now I'm really drawing my green mana, so I've got 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 mana is not enough to make 2 1/1s. It's not even enough to make a 2/2 and a 1/1. But it is enough to spit out my Recluse and make a 2/2. It is. So we'll do that. Keep gaining life off of the Healer's Hawk. World Soul Colossus is another creature that will not be fun to block. Oh no, they remembered Hitchclaw Recluse. That's not good. I suppose I did I guess, no, I didn't have enough mana to play Dissident and still make a 1/1 lifelinker. Intrusive Pack Beast, uh-oh. It's actually not that bad, but they do get to tap the Conclave Cavalier, so I can't put that into the gigantic stack that's going to be blocking their 13. Okay, 13/13 Trample coming in. Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Do I actually just want to lose the largest... It's between if I want to lose the largest number of creatures as possible or the largest creatures. Like, if I want to lose as few creatures as possible, I block with Siege Worm. If I want to lose the smallest creatures that I have, I just block with a bunch of 2/2s. They have no cards in hand. We know they're not going to pump the Colossus, so let's go... Probably go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. Boop. I'm losing a lot of creatures to do this, which means they'll have some big swings coming at me, but by keeping as many creatures as I can that are more than 2 power, they'll have to make sure that they are getting in for a lot of damage for it to be worth it to attack, because I am going to be eating up all of their other creatures to do that. And again, with Ledev Champion, they have to be really sure that it's worth it to tap down whatever number of creatures to do whatever number of damage to me. Pelt Collector is up to a 6/6 now, though, so that's it's bigger than a Siege Worm now. I do have enough mana to make two 1/1s now. 2 1/1s is probably better than 1 2/2. I have 15 cards left in my deck, still all 3 of my black sources in there. So that's a thing too. We passed the turn. Oh, I forgot to attack with my Healer's Hawk. Could have gained 2 more life, been at 24. Rough. One card in hand, 9 in deck for our opponents. The game is still going to go on for a while, most likely. Unless my opponent is very good at math and they already know that I'm dead. If they just full on, I don't know Japanese, but that one phrase, the "you're already dead." If they assembled that. So now they send in the Dissident. That's a smart play. Eight plus 6, 14. They have 15 mana. They can triple pump it. Triple pump makes it an 8/8. Probably block with Siege Worm and Conclave Cavalier. They can only kill one of them. And Dissident dies. But then Pelt Collector gets bigger. So I lose my Siege Worm here. I just want to really make sure they can only make it an 8/8. Costs 5 mana to do. They have 15 mana. Yep. +6/+6. So 8/8. They kill Siege Worm. Alright. Trade 1 creature for 1 creature. Seems fine. And they have to spend all of their mana into it, which means that they aren't getting another creature this turn. I'm going to draw my Golgari Guildgate before I draw any of my swamps. I just know it. They're going to troll me by making me wait 2 turns to play Vraska. Alright, let's just Blade Instructor and Dissident, and then I'll still have 5 mana up for another 1/1. Still only a Hitchclaw Recluse with Reach. We get in with Healer's Hawk to gain 2. I missed on that last turn. What if our opponent has Gaia's Blessing somehow? Crawl Harpooner. No, trade with my Healer's Hawk. At least I do have a +1/+1 counter on that Healer's Hawk, or else this would be really sad. Luckily, it has a counter on it, so at least I kill the Crawl Harpooner here. It doesn't just die all alone. Pelt Collector gets bigger, though, because they have enough undergrowth that Crawl Harpooner came in as a 9-2. Actually, a 10-2. It had 7 undergrowth when they played it. Pretty bonkers. Pelt Collector's getting super scary. I wouldn't be surprised if Pelt Collector is the creature to come in this turn. Ledev Champ. Oh, they're doing it. They did the math. They did the math. Ledev Champion. All right. Come on in, friend. Let's see how they choose to attack here. It doesn't have lifelink, so if I don't die by this, I need to do the math and see if I can crack back for lethal. It's unlikely, but maybe a thing. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'll have 12 creatures. I'll have 12 creatures. So if they leave 4 or less blockers, maybe. They're doing a lot of choosing here between whether or not they want to send in the Pelt Collector, which is very fair. This game, I wouldn't want to be on either side of the table in this game. I hate it here. Let me out. All right. Now they have to do the math on how many creatures to tap to the Ledev Champion. See, this is why I'm not attacking, because I have the alternate victory route of maybe my opponent mills out before me. They have a lot less cards in library than me. I don't want to explode my brain in this game and just lose all of my brain power for the rest of the games. I think I'm already at 2 losses, though, so if I lose this game, I'm out. So maybe I should be thinking more, but this is a game and a half. Attacking for 13, they're leaving back 5 blockers, none of which have lifelink. So they're leaving back 5 blockers. So they block 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the biggest ones. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They take 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I just have lethal crackback here, right? No, they have 11 mana up to make more lifelinkers. But if I give trample, maybe. I think I can take 13. I honestly think I can take 13. What if I send a 1/1 lifelinker at it? That would force them to tap Guild Mage. So I know they don't make a 2/2. Yeah, but even then they still have enough mana to make 1/1s. They've got 13 mana up. They'll still have enough to make 2 1/1 lifelinkers. I'll allow it, I think. Actually go for trample here. All right, you know what? Oh my god. I hate this so much. I have 2 hourglasses. Oh. Well, I was going to see if I could do a lethal attack here, but now that I've drawn Vraska, I think I just kill the Dev Champion. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 blockers. Vraska's going to die on the crackback, but then I get to kill a lot of their stuff. I can attack with everybody and give trample and kill one of their creatures. So I kill Pelt Collector. Probably, right? Attack with everyone. Give trample. Good lord. 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. They have basically 17 toughness to block because the lifelinkers are essentially 1/2s because they're gaining life. So they have 17 to block with. They have 17 to block with. they're going to be taking 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 26 minus 17 is 9? That's lethal, right? I might just die right now. I might just die right now.
It's about to end. Hope you're ready. It seems fortune favors you.
5, 6, 7 mana up. 7 mana up. What's the biggest buff of damage I can do? I could +1/+1 Ledev champion with another token. Or just plus dissident. Plussing dissident is more damage. So go to combat. Mentor onto anything. Let's pick a lifelinker, I guess. Tap the vigilant creatures. Give trample. A 2/2 and a 1/1 lifelink save the same amount of damage, so that's fine. That's actually, no, that's better for me because they had to tap that, so they actually did more damage to themselves by doing that because they tapped a creature to make a creature that would prevent 2 damage instead of just making a creature that would prevent 2 damage off of the Dev Champion. I'm pretty sure this is lethal. I cannot overestimate how hard my heart is pounding right now. Like, I think if I were in a tournament setting, I would probably just Vraska, kill the Dev Champion, and sit here. But, gotta do it for the Vine. I swear there's something I'm missing and I'm just dead here. Watch one of their creatures just gets +20, +20 in lifelink till end of turn. Oh my god. Whatever happens here, my opponent and myself have put each other through hell. Okay. 1 hour and 37 minutes into the video. I did not keep track of when that game started. But an hour and 37 minutes in, we're 5 games in. That's actually not so bad. I guess my other games were really fast in comparison to that one. Whew. Man, it kind of sucks to finish that game and know that it's still not all over. Now I have to do more math and Magic the Gathering puzzlings in my head. I can't even do brain words now. Gotta drink a lot of water now. That was a lot of talking. Maybe that'll get my blood pressure down too. That was not okay. Selesnya mirror matches with both players having the exact same mana sinks should be illegal. Well, this is weird. This is weird, but I'll take it. I like Dissident turn 2. I like having all 3 colors. And we're actually not far from Cavalier. I just need another white source and I can cast Cavalier. So our mana's even good for that, which is the hardest thing to cast in our deck, as we saw last game, not casting it till like turn 20. We did get another green source, so that is not enough to cast Conclave Cavalier, but it is a helpful land for Rosemane Centaur and Siege Worm. Opponent starts with a Pelt Collector. I was about to say, if they drop a Plains, I'm gonna concede. Plains and Conclave Guildmage, get ready for the same match again. No, never again. I did draw the plains now, so that is very nice. We'll just play a Guildgate, and I don't think I'm attacking into the Death Toucher. I'll block and trade with the Death Toucher, but don't really want to send in on it. Opponent now has a Spinal Centipede. Conclave Cavalier is probably going to be really nice against Golgari. Anything that's going to give us the extra value of multiple creatures after it dies is super sick. Because Golgari decks are going to be all about trading for our creatures as much as possible, so a creature that spits out more creatures. That's exactly what we're looking for. Opponent has another swamp there at 4 mana. Plaguecrafter. That's not great, but I'm still trading Conclave Cavalier for a 3-power creature at least. So it's not the end of the world, and I do obviously get my 2/2 Knight tokens out of this. Okay, now I have the mana for Rosemane Centaur. I do have the mana for Siege Worm as well, but I feel they definitely have removal. Plaguecrafter isn't exactly removal. All they have to do is like land Deadly Visit and then Siege Worm's dead. I feel like Rosemane Centaur would draw removal from our opponent as well. So I'm going to drop that first. I feel like this would get Deadly Visited if they have a Deadly Visit. Or Statued if they have a statue. Yep, Price of Fame, pretty much Deadly Visit, just for 1 less mana and at instant speed. Just way better Deadly Visit, because that card was not good enough. If I double block here, I lose both my tokens, so I'll just take the 4. Now it is time to see if they have another Deadly Visits. I hope not. Or just another removal spell. I guess technically the first removal spell was not a Deadly Visit, it was a Price of Fame. Different card, that's the one that's supposed to be good enough for Standard. It's well out of Standard now, just because of rotation, but... Well, we have both of our mana sinks now, so... That seems pretty nice, and we get to start gaining 1 life a turn. I doubt they can kill both our mana sinks unless they have a Wrath. Don't think I'm playing against a Wrath right now. They've got like Plaguecrafter and Pelt Collector would both die to Ritual of Soot as well, so we're both losing a lot on a Ritual of Soot. There's Hired Poisoner. Luminous Bonds for Rhizome Lurcher. Their only way to kill Siege Worm after that would be to double block. Actually, no, they have a 1/1 Death Toucher out. What am I talking about? I do have 6 mana up here, so I'm okay to just start making 2/2 tokens. Just keep getting it with Healer's Hawk, I suppose. That seems fine. I hate to say it, but it might be time to play the long game again. Let's shoot for a 3-hour draft here. If we hit 3 hours in this draft, that'll mean that we're winning more games, because I already have 2 losses out. Oh, Burglar Rat is super rough here. I totally forgot about that. That is a very common card in Golgari decks. That would have been a huge reason to drop down Luminous Bonds. But it's not like we could have held an extra land in our hand for that because of the fact that we need all 6 mana for Conclave Guildmage. I really like Venerated Loxodon here. Get a counter on our Vigilant 2/2s and our Healer's Hawk most importantly, because that's going to get in every turn. Could put a counter on Ledev Champion as well, because I don't really want to block with that. Actually, I like playing Loxodon without even without tapping any mana. That way I can make another 2/2. Huh. Do I just put it on 4 2/2s and a Healer's Hawk? I feel like I definitely put it on Champion. Champion, Healer's Hawk, and 3 2/2s, and then I have another 2/2 for blocking purposes. And we just do that, hold up all the mana for another 2/2. That seems pretty good. I'm liking our position quite a bit. We've got mana sinks, and that's really important. Even if they kill the Conclave Guildmage, we then have just Ledev Champion making tokens. Definitely going to make a 2-2. Last opportunity we have. Siege Worm. Can't give everything trample anymore, which kind of sucks. Only have to tap one creature for Siege Worm now. Definitely not setting in Ledev Champion. We can't lose our mana sink again. I think we just attack with Healer's Hawk. I think there's like an argument for setting in Siege Worm, Loxodon, and the 3/3s, but the problem is they can go like Lurcher on the Loxodon, Death Toucher on the Siege Worm, a 4/4 on one of the 3/3s. I still don't think we're quite to where we can push through all these, because every single one of these can kill lots of things. These are all pretty big, and Poisoner obviously has Death Touch. Don't really love where I'm at. And I'll just tap one of the... Well, if I hold 5 mana up, that's enough to make a creature this turn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I need to tap 6 creatures. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I don't think I'm making a 1/1 this turn. I'm just not gonna tap 6 creatures. It might be worth it because again, our opponent is in a position where they can't really afford to like crack all out at us or swing all out at us because the crackback is really bad. Deadly Visit on one of our Siege Worms. Oh, I'm so fine with that. That means we get to keep Ledev Champion. 1 to the graveyard, 1 on top makes me feel like they may be hitting another removal spell. Vraska is really nice here with the token producer to keep drawing cards. If I minus something, do I just hit their Death Toucher? I think I just go for the long game, really. I just attack with just play Vraska, attack with Healer's Hawks, and just chill. Because their only way to kill Vraska is going to be sacrificing creatures by attacking me. No, we're doing great.
Everyone is expendable, except me.
I can even sacrifice a land here because I only need 5 mana for Ledev Champion's ability. And it's another land. Well, we'll just play it and obviously sacrifice it later to Vraska again. If Vraska hits 9, we just win. So I think we're playing the Vraska long game, trying to reach her ultimate. Because if we hit her ultimate, if we damage them with any of our creatures, which will obviously have 1,000,000, then we automatically win. So there is a Severed Strength. They actually sacrificed the Death Toucher to do that. Does make sense. The rest of their creatures are big enough to potentially kill something and survive. But yeah, the Death Toucher could kill anything. Anything it damages, at least. There's a Molder Hulk from our opponent. I think we're 100% set to just get the Vraska win. We could even win with just our flyer doing 1 damage to them. So here's a nice little Loxodon Restorer. Probably should have drawn a card first, just in case I drew something better. Bit of a punt there. 10th District Guard is definitely not better, so we'll just hit him for 2. 2 turns away from a Vraska ultimate for game. There's the Deadly Visit for Ledev Champion, but we haven't even used its ability once so far. They are really drawing the removal to get rid of our mana sinks and stuff. The creatures are pretty scary, so they are in a position to really try to send all in at Vraska, but I think that will also just end with them losing. Mill a Blood Operative, which is nice. Mill that with Surveil, you get it back to your hand. And anytime they Surveil in the future, if it's in their grave, they get to return it back to hand for the cost of 3 life. Which is not a very high cost. I cannot zoom in on it. There we go. Not a very high cost when it's got 3 power and lifelink. So they send the Molder Hulk at Vraska, and we know that their 1 card in hand is Blood Operative. They have no abilities on the field, so we'll block this in a way that we only lose 1 creature. which is by blocking with those two. We lose our 3-4. Actually, we could block it even better. Just lose a 3-4 instead of a 3-3. If I blocked the other way, I would lose a 4-4, which is definitely worse. Pelt Collector will get a bit bigger here, though. But I can just kill Pelt Collector if I'm not super concerned about ultimating Vraska. So let's get a mana. I am concerned about ultimating Vraska, though. That is what I want to do. Get a mana before I sacrifice a swamp in case I draw something I want to play immediately. I did not, so we'll just drop down 10th Disregard, hit him for 2 in the sky. Get ready for the next turn, Lethal Vraska ultimate. Vigor Spore Worm is going to make something really big, and Pelt Collector has Trample. Ooh, they're not picking Pelt Collector. And they're going to scoop him up. Alright. I don't know if they scooped them up when they realized, oh shit, I have a trample creature, so I might have been able to get some damage in there. Or they just scooped them up because, I mean, Vraska ready to ultimate. That's fair. Either way. Kind of sad we didn't get to go through the motions. We didn't get to get the Vraska ultimate on the board. That would have been really cool. But yeah, I'm liking the Vraska in the deck. Obviously, in the really long game, that was the one game where our mana really did punish us. But even in that game, still won. So, good enough. Alright, so we're at 4 wins and 3 losses. So as always, at this rating, I'm happy with whatever happens here. 4 wins is enough wins to get my 1,500 gems back. Goblin Banneret starts it off for our opponent, so get ready for an aggressive Boros start. Luckily, we do curve out after turn 2, especially if we hit another white source. Conclave Cavalier will be a really nice blocker to spit out more blockers when it dies. Sumala Woodshaper as well. Block and trade with something and draw another blocker from the top 4 cards of our library. I'm liking our draw against an aggressive Boros deck. Don't love the lack of a reach creature, but thanks to that Golgari Guildgate, we could kill that with Vraska now. And if they kill Vraska, not the end of the world, then we just basically played Vraska as a 4-mana sorcery to destroy a creature and gain a couple life. Basically made them attack Vraska instead of us. So I think Vraska's pretty good here, even if she dies the second we cast her. Definitely going to be a much different use of Vraska than we had last game. Alright, definitely going to try to take that trade. They probably have Sure Strike, but I'll trade a 10th Disregard for a Sure Strike any day. Looks like no Sure Strike. They do play a Skyline Scout. So Skyline Scout will kill Vraska when they attack with it, but I'm down to 12 with no way to block flyers. I think I still just use the Vraska as a removal spell. Force them to spend their mana giving the Skyline Scout flying here.
Oh, people, don't flatter yourself.
Next turn, we'd love to draw a white source, pop out a Conclave Cavalier. But if not, Sumala Woodshaper is a fine play. Ooh, Prey Upon? Don't have anything big enough to do that right now, which I really don't love. Definitely need to hit a white source so that we have a Conclave Cavalier out, because I want to be able to prey upon that Skyline Scout without losing a creature. Loxodon Restorer and Siege Worm are both big enough to do that, and thanks to Convoke, I can cast either of them. Honestly, might prefer Loxodon Restorer in this game, just to gain life, because I'm going to go down to 10 this turn if they have like nothing else in hand. Could also just spend the Prey Upon right now and lose a creature, but I don't love that. I'm going to pick up the Siege Worm. Send in for 2. Because I am not going to block with my Guild Mage, we would like to try to take over the late game with our Guild Mage's ability. There's a Sunhome Stalwart, Skyline Scout coming in flying for 2. I unfortunately don't have enough mana because I didn't draw basic land this turn to play Siege Worm and Prey Upon. And I really don't like what happens if our opponent just has a Luminous Bonds, so I actually might play Hitchclaw Recluse instead here. I think I'm all good with that. I can play Hitchclaw Recluse, and then I don't even have to Prey Upon the Skyline Scout, because then I just have a 1/4 reach to block it. I still kind of want to, in case they have removal for Recluse, like a Lava Coil. I'm going to play it real safe here, and it might be a waste of a card, but just in case they have like Lava Coil to do 4 damage to my Hitchclaw Recluse, and get it off the board that way, I'm going to fight their flyer right now. If I can just survive into the long game, I think I've got this game in the bag with a great mana sink like Conclave Guildmage out, and the big chonkers I have in hand. I just need to make sure I can survive to the long game. Ooh, Rosemane Centaur is going to be really nice. Get to leave up all my blockers and still cast that. If I cast Siege Worm, I'm only leaving up one of those as a blocker. They know I have Siege Worm, so they may be saving a Bonds for it. If I Siege Worm and those get tapped and then it's just Hitchclaw Recluse up, if they do have removal, they attack with a 3/3 First Striker and a 3/3 block, 1 take 3, and they've mentored on the Stalwart, which is pretty huge. So for that reason, I think I'm just going to play Centaur. Seems definitely a bit safer. Just want to prevent the kind of double 3/3 attack here. They do have a Bounty Agent. Oh, now I have double Siege Worm coming up. All right, I am safe at this point to drop down a Siege Worm. Definitely want to leave Hitchclaw Recluse untapped, though. I disagree with that auto-tapper a lot, because I am not going to block with Conclave Guildmage, period. And a 2/1 block's a lot worse than a 1/4 reach. I really like having the 1/4 reach in case they play a Sky Knight Legionnaire, that 2/2 flyer haste. They already played one earlier this game, so it is safe to assume they'll have more. I now have the 6 mana to start mana sinking more 2/2s out. And I think I'm actually going to attack with a Siege Worm here and then just play another one. Not even doing any mana sink things yet. Just going to take that, and here's another Siege Worm. Only have to tap 1 creature for it. So I would rather tap the Guildmage more than anything else, because that is the creature I am the least likely to block with. And now double Siege Worm should be a massive game against a Boros deck. They do have a Luminous Bonds for one of the Siege Worms. If they push in for an attack here, I'm going to assume something like an Inescapable Blaze, just trying to chip away for that final few damage so they can do 6 to me off that one spell and really get me. Siege Worm still is going to trade for 2 of their creatures on a block, so I like sending in Siege Worm. If they do double block the Siege Worm to trade, they won't have good trades for the Rosemane Centaur, but if they don't, they can double block the Centaur and kill it with only losing a 3/3. And they're actually just going to concede there because I am very scared and taking too much time for our opponent's liking. I think I was going to end up probably just attacking with Siege Worm and then spitting out a 2/2, playing it really safe that game, because against a Boros deck, if we've got a mana sink, we're putting a 2/2 on the board every single turn at the very least. I find it highly unlikely we can lose there, even playing it safe and maybe not pushing our advantage as much as we should. So that puts us to 5 wins and 2 losses, 1,600 gems and 4 packs. We're all up in the value, straight up in the money, like always in this set. It's going really well. I suppose a lot of that has to do with the fact that I did play this set when it first came out, and I drafted it about as much as I did any other set, so I probably have a lot more experience with this set than a decent number of my opponents. I'm sure there are plenty of people playing Arena now that were not playing when Guilds first came out. So that would make a lot of sense for why my win rate in Guilds is seeming to be a lot higher than in like Zendikar. I feel like in most sets I have a pretty average, just like 50-50 win rate, but so far with Guilds I've only had 1 draft that was not 4-3 or better. Which is actually pretty insane. I kind of have to mulligan this. We found the hand. We found the hand, first hand, that is really punishing our mana. Like, really, really punishing it to the point where we need to mull. Maybe I mulliganed earlier and just forgot about it. Definitely keep this one, get rid of the Siege Worm, because that is the card we are the farthest off from casting. Opponent starts with a mountain. We against Boros again? We sure are. Goblin Banneret's going to start things off. We did draw our Swamp for Vraska, so we've got perfect mana. Not quite. Need another green source for Conclave Cavalier. Excuse me. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. I don't like this at all. Goblin Banneret into Boros Challenger. Next turn they attack. Boros Challenger and Banneret are now a 2-2 and a 2-3 attacking in, and they play a 3-mana creature. This is starting to be a real scary start. If I play Hitchclaw Recluse this turn, I can tap out for a 4-4 next turn. But then if I play a 4-4 next turn, like they hit me with a 2-2 and a 2-3 this turn. I guess they only hit me with 1. I go down to 17. But then the turn after that, because Banneret has turned into a 2-2, they can pump it up, and then it's a 5-2 that pumps up the Challenger. I don't know. I think the best play is to Recluse into Centaur next turn, probably. This really sucks if they have Lava Coil or Demotion. Sure Strike is definitely not the end of the world, because at least I stop a couple damage off of that one. Alright, looks like a Runaway Steamkin followed by a Guild Gate. I don't know if I mentioned it, but it is really nice to have leveled up into Diamond on this draft. That is pretty wonderful. Alright, so here's our Rosemane Centaur. Maybe convinces them not to attack with anything but the Goblin Banneret. I guess the Banneret only gets +2, not +3, so it does attack as a 4-2. Still big enough to trade with Centaur. The Runaway Steamkin is a pretty fun rare. Every time they play a red spell, they put a +1/+1 counter on it. It stops getting +1/+1 counters on it once it has 3, so it stops at being a 4-4. But at that point, you can remove all 3 counters to add 3 red to your mana pool. That part's not so relevant and limited, but a 2-mana creature that turns into a 4-4 pretty quickly is quite nice. Here's a Wojek Bodyguard. 3/3 Mentor, can't attack or block alone. So they'll have to send in with a team for that one. I might end up Luminous Bondsing the Banneret just because that can pump to such high power. Probably not going to do it this turn, though. Probably just play a Sumala Woodshaper. I could also play a Loxodon Restorer by tapping the Hitchclaw Recluse, and then I have a 4-4 and 3-4 blocker. That could be nice. And I gain some life. I'm okay with that. Let's go with the Loxodon Restorer. I am really not loving the amount of Mentor that our opponent has. I've said Centaur so much that now it's Mentor. But yeah, their Mentor creatures work together really well. Oh no, they have the Cosmotronic Wave, so I can't block this turn, which means I'm getting a huge amount of damage to my face, as well as they're mentoring up their Boros Challenger or their Goblin Banneret with Wojek Bodyguard, so this turn is massively bad for me. I'm taking 11, I go down to 8. And most importantly, their creatures are going to be bigger and even harder to kill. I think I'm at the point where I'm willing to Luminous Bonds the Goblin Bannerets. Unfortunately, I do not have enough mana to do that and cast the Sumala Woodshaper. But that is the cheapest one to pump up. Boros Challenger takes 4 mana, and then it turns into a 3-4 off of the pump. They only have 4 mana right now, so then they have a 3-4, a 3-3, and a 3-3. None of that attacks well into my field. So yeah, we really just need to stop the Banneret here. And I could be pretty safe. All depends on what's in that hand. All it takes is a single sure strike to put me in a world of hurt again. Obviously, if they have another Cosmotronic Wave, I just lose immediately. Just make it so I can't block again. And then they have 9 damage on board. Actually, it would be 10 damage thanks to Runaway Steamkin's ability, giving that an extra +1/+1 counter, as well as the Mentor of the Wojak Bodyguard onto Boros Challenger. Gravitic Punch is terrifying. Do 4 to me right now, and then they do 4 to me again next turn, so I need to draw life gain immediately. Don't draw any life gain, so that's just going to be game. That is just going to be game. I don't think I have another Loxodon Restore in my deck, but I suppose if I do, I could get really lucky and Sumala Woodshaper into one. Let's see what we draw off the Woodshaper. Even if I hit one, though, I'd have to tap my whole field to cast it, so I'd still die. Nope, none of these gain me life the turn I play them. The Dev Champion also makes lifelink tokens, but those won't gain life before I get Gravitic Punched to the face for 4. So, that is going to be the final game. Just got aggroed out by a pretty nice Boros deck here, which is unfortunate. I guess I can send in the Rosemane Centaur. Maybe they block with Steamkin. No blocks, so I'm very dead to the Gravitic Punch. What are they? I was going to say, are they doing some kind of fight spell instead? That'd be crazy. They've got the win in their grave. Nope, went for the Gravitic Punch, Runaway Steamkin for 4 damage to my face. We are at Diamond Tier 4 now, and we had 0 points towards the next tier, so I didn't even lose any ranking by losing that game, because you cannot fall from Diamond back to Platinum until the season reset. So that's really nice. Overall, pretty great draft. Obviously, we didn't make it all the way there, but 5 wins and 3 losses is still a pretty positive record, and we made it all the way up into Diamond ranking. Very happy with that. As always, at the end of these videos, I'm going to be popping open these packs as I do my little outro, where I would like to thank you all very much for sticking around with the channel, watching all the videos, liking, commenting, subscribing, all of that good stuff. If you want to see more of this Magic Arena content, primarily drafts, just stick around. There's going to be some links showing up right now to a playlist of all my Guilds of Ravnica drafts and some random suggested video, and the subscribe button if you want to do that. But as always, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow.